Hi, this is Martin Gibbons from PeopleMarks, and today this is a very quick exercise for line managers. So if you're a line manager and you're dealing with any of the issues to do with recruitment, etc., then you're really going to enjoy this. And this is all about how to avoid putting square pegs in round holes. I'm very quickly going to take you through this. Okay, so square pegs, round holes, this is what we're dealing with here today in this short video. And this applies not just the recruitment, we'll talk about a recruitment example here today, but also in terms of delegation, teamwork, team building. Who do you bring onto your team? Who do you delegate tasks to? Some tasks are better delegated to some person or another. So as a line manager, you're faced with this scenario pretty much every day. And the better that you become at putting round pegs into round holes, then the easier your life will be. Now, over 50 years ago, line managers discovered that if they put the right people in the right job, then life is not only more profitable, but it's actually much easier too. Now, this doesn't just apply to recruitment, as I said. It also deals with those everyday things that you do when you're working in teams and you're pulling teams together, you're working in projects. Anytime you're assigning a task, you're dealing with this type of scenario. It really is the everyday scenarios that line managers like you have to deal with. Now, you already know how painful it is to have someone on your team that is simply a poor fit. So you hire that wrong person, living with that is a real pain in the neck. It's difficult for them too. Everybody tends to suffer. So they might be suffering, but they make sure that everybody else suffers in the process, unfortunately. Well, this is an exercise what I'm about to show you that I run in nearly all of my workshops. It's really easy, it's really quick, but it's hugely powerful. And I think it'll open your eyes to something that's probably quite astounding. And it really is one of the surest ways that you will avoid placing square pegs in round holes. Now, you can do it on your own as a manager, that's absolutely fine, but it's better still if you bring a small group of people together. So perhaps your next staff meeting, get 2 or 3 of your people, give it to one of your teams, use it in those kind of scenarios. You can use it again and again. It doesn't really wear out, and I think you'll all get a lot from this. Okay, so here's what you need to do. Pick a job role, and then ask everyone to list all the attributes that are important in the role. So you're looking for 1 or 2 word answers here. You want to put a list up on your whiteboard or onto a flip chart. So you're not looking for big sentences. You're looking for 1 or 2 words to describe that are important, that you feel important, that your people feel important for any job role. Now in this example, I'm just going to use a manager as the role, right? That's all I'm thinking about, just generally a manager. But it really could be anything at all. So the last time I did this, this is what the group of people I was working with actually come up with. So they said, okay, a manager, right, well, they need to be approachable, organised, willing to listen, good communicator. They need to be clear, willing to admit a mistake, they need to be tolerant, they need to be patient. So this was the consensus. We pulled together a whole bunch of people. This is the group list that we ultimately come up with. Okay, you do your own list. See what you can come up with for the job role that you team are actually working on. Now you go through each point on the list and you ask if it's a skill or an attitude. Now a skill is something that we can learn, right? If you don't know how to lift someone up from one place and place them in another, let's say you work in a care home, then that's a skill you can go and learn. If you don't know CPR, you can go and do a course and learn CPR. So that's a skill. An attitude, well, that's something that's largely stems from our personality, and it's pretty much everything that's not a skill, if you like. Now, if you look at our list of things again, the approachable, organised, willing to listen, good communicator, are these skills or attitudes? Well, what you find is that they're actually all attitudes. They're all affected by our personality. Now, if you look at them again, you can see that this is true. And there's maybe 1 or 2 in there that have an element of skill. For instance, a good communicator. Well, you can go and learn how to communicate more effectively. You can take writing classes, you can go to public speaking. So there, of course, is a skill element there. However, the willingness to communicate and a large part of being a good communicator tends to come from your personality. It tends to be more an attitude with maybe some skill thrown in. Now you can repeat this exercise on pretty much any job role that you care to imagine, and the list will vary, absolutely. You'll come up with a whole bunch of different words, but rarely do you find that more than 2 or 3 of the things listed are skills. In this case here, there almost wasn't any, and it wasn't until I raised the issue of what about lifting people, You know, they went, oh yeah, actually that'd be quite important. You know, so this tends to come up. But what you do discover, because it goes this way, is that what you're dealing with here is what sits at the forefront of our minds, and these are all the personality issues. This is what our experience tells us. Actually, instinctively, we know that skills can be taught, and other stuff, attitudes, really can't be. It's a much more difficult area, and we know this instinctively as humans. Now, if you look at your recruitment process, at which point are you actually going to identify if the candidate is approachable or organised or willing to listen or a good communicator? Well, I have to say, if your recruitment process is anything like the ones that I've worked with and the clients that I've worked with over the years, then I would say that you would never spot anything like this. These things here are not covered in your traditional recruitment process. If you're very lucky, some of this might come out during an interview, but actually no guarantee that that would happen, not with any reliability, and it certainly wouldn't come out during the selection phase. And by this point, you may have rejected a lot of your best candidates because you're essentially looking at skills and not these attitudes. Now, this is because our traditional recruitment process is biased towards filtering and hiring on skills. And the reason for that is quite simple. You can get your head around it, you can measure it, you can tick a box, you can look for a certificate, you can be very black or white about it. It's quite specific. And of course, personality and attitudes are not so specific, therefore we tend to just ignore them. And yet, when you do this exercise, you'll discover that it's actually that side of things is what really matters. And this is why I can say with all confidence that we hire on skills, but we fire on attitude. But if we're to place round pins in round holes, then we must look beyond skills. This is what this is telling us here. Skills, qualifications and work experience tell us very little of anything about the peg itself. They tell us very little about the things that we care about most, and this is what comes out when you do the exercise with your own people. You'll see that what they care about most are the attitudes, the personality issues. So to increase our chances of placing round pegs and round holes, we really need to look at our list of attitudes. That has to be our guide. So we need to look at, in our case here, is the person approachable? Are they organised? Are they willing to listen? How would you figure that out? How would you ask that? How would you deal with that? Now, this is where personality reports really come into their own. You see, personality reports do not look at skills at all. They are absolutely blind to someone's skills, qualifications, or experience. What they look at is purely their personality and, of course, their attitude. We look at their preferred behaviour. And you can therefore tell if their preferred behaviour makes them approachable. If their preferred behaviour, their natural homeostasis in their terms of their personality, means that they're just quite organised or they're willing to listen. That's very much a preferred behaviour, and the personality report will tell you these kind of things. So the reports can help you explore attitudes quickly with candidates and figure out how to place a round peg in a round hole. Now, as I say, this isn't just in recruitment. This is the more extreme example of it because you're dealing with complete strangers. But even if you're looking at doing this in your own team, let's say you've got a task tomorrow that requires someone to go and bury themselves in some detailed analysis of some spreadsheet or other. Well, your temptation might be to go and give it to the most obvious person, might be the salesperson. Let's say you're looking at doing some sales analysis. You might just send your salesperson and say, hey, can you go and do the analysis on that, put it into a spreadsheet and give me a report? Well, that's perfectly sensible in many ways. However, if that salesperson really has an issue, as many will do, of dealing with details and spreadsheets and those kind of things, because actually they'd rather be out talking to people and selling stuff, then you've probably given a square task to a round hole. And what you might be better to do is to try and find someone else who actually enjoys analysing those kind of details and crunching some numbers and playing with a spreadsheet, because they'll actually do it better and they'll enjoy doing it and they won't be upset, and unlike your sales chap. So that's a very classic, simple example on an everyday type scenario. And actually, if you stop and look at these things, you can see them happening all the time, and not always you can do something about it, but if you get the chance, you really should, because everybody's life gets better, everybody's life gets more productive. Okay, so that's it from me today. I'm Martin Gibbons. You can find very affordable reports over at peoplemaps.com. If you haven't got an account already and you are a line manager and you're working with staff, then you really need to get yourself your own account. It won't cost you a penny. Go in, register, or go over to peoplemaps.com, just sign in, register. It's completely free of charge. I'll even give you some credits to let you get started if you haven't done so before. And you can start to really reveal some of the most important things, the stuff that you will prove through this exercise, the stuff that really matters to not just you, but your people too. Okay, I'm Martin Evans. This is People Maps. Thanks very much for watching.